Welcome to the Boston Barrister, Kevin Patrick Seaver, bringing you insights about your family and the world.
Welcome to the Boston Barrister. My name is Kevin Patrick Seaver, located in Boston, Massachusetts. This week's topic is going to be about the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. I want to set the stage on the Lindsay Clancy trial being held in Superior Court in Plymouth, Massachusetts. I was in Plymouth Court on one day this week, and all the TV cameras were being pulled in, and witnesses and so forth and so on. There was a crowd, and you could just feel that courthouse abuzz. So we want to set the stage of who, what, where, when, and how. Who is the judge? The name of the judge is William F. Sullivan. Who's doing the prosecution for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? It's the District Attorney's Office of Plymouth, led by Timothy Cruz and two of his assistant DAs. Who's the defense counsel for Lindsay? Kevin Reddington. Now, the interesting part about this case is it happened in January of 2023. Here it is 3 years later, and away we go. Now, the first witness to testify will be and has been Patrick Clancy. Now, you have to set the stage here as well. Patrick Clancy has spoken to other media sources prior to this, so those statements have been and will be continued to be buzzed about of what he said. The jury has complied of 18 jurors. 12 of them are women, 6 are men, and there'll be 6 that are alternates. So they will deliberate, and you have extra jurors that if, God forbid, someone gets hurt, gets sick, some type of family emergency and have to leave, we fill in with another person. Not a big deal. So there's been 12 jurors and 6 alternates to decide the Lindsay Clancy trial. On opening day, we heard opening statements by both the prosecution as well as the defense. And after that, the first witness was Patrick Clancy, who's been on the witness stand for a few days and will be and was on both the prosecution and the defense witness list to testify. This trial, after week 1, they expect to go probably 4 to 6 weeks, maybe even longer. No one can predict exactly, as the law is not an exact science. The first witness, Patrick Clancy, took the witness stand and testified to basically the things that he had said in various magazines and conferences he had with the media. The defense attorney, Kevin Reddington, tried to limit the number of witnesses, especially the first responders. Defense attorney Kevin Reddington also objected to utilization of graphic autopsy photos of the children along with the 911 call. And this was supported by Patrick Clancy. Patrick Clancy, age 38, has divorced Lindsay Clancy. He has moved on with his life to the best of his ability by remarrying and now living in New York. Lindsay Clancy, age 35, killed all 3 of her children by using exercise bands to strangle them back in January of 2023. Those are the harsh, cruel facts. After murdering her 3 children, ages 5, 3, and less than a year old, then slashed her own wrists and her neck and jumped out of the second floor home in an attempt to commit suicide. The crazy part about Lindsay Clancy's background is that she was a nurse. Not only was she a nurse, she was a labor and delivery nurse at perhaps one of the best, if not the best hospital in the world, Massachusetts General Hospital, MGH, right here in Boston. Lindsay Clancy has pleaded not guilty to 3 murder charges of her children. Her defense, even though she admits to committing the crimes, that she was involved with a terrible, terrible postpartum mental health. The prosecution, on the other hand, counter, saying that she intentionally and premeditatedly sent Patrick Clancy out to get food for the family, as well as send them to CVS on the way back to get a prescription for one of the children, which allowed plenty of time for Lindsay Clancy could commit the crimes. The prosecution played the 9/11 phone call by Patrick, and they allowed Patrick, the judge, William F. Sullivan, much to his credit, for Patrick to be able to leave the courtroom while the airing and playing of this 911 tape was played. Jurors were seen weeping during the 911 call. Very, very, very emotional episode, to say the least. The 911 call involved Patrick Clancy, who testified that he found his wife outside on the ground. And he went back into the home and found his 3 children in the basement with exercise bands around their neck. The oldest 2, 5 and 3 years old, were dead. The baby lived for another day or so, and then eventually also passed on. As you can fully appreciate, the town of Duxbury, where this all took place, had a massive entourage of first responders, including police, fire, and EMTs. to the scene. The first responders desperately tried to revive the children, but unfortunately to no avail. The prosecution, in response to the defense request to limit the number of witnesses and first responders to testify, argued that they did not choose how many response workers would be attending the Lindsay Clancy home. The Assistant District Attorney Sprague argued to the court that the Commonwealth did not choose how many victims there were. William F. Sullivan denied the defense request to limit the number of witnesses. Patrick Clancy's lawyer, a gentleman named David Myers, argued to the judge, sidebar, that the right of the public to see and know the various exhibits that were being proffered, such as the autopsy reports, as well as a 911 call and other documentation exhibits, was far outweighed by the harm to Patrick Clancy, who I think everyone would agree has been through a lot. In this trial, it took 4 days to select 18 jurors. A lot of time and effort went into on both the prosecution and the defense side, along with the judge, to ensure that this will be an impartial jury. Not easy to do. What is the compensation that the Commonwealth pays a juror, especially in light of the fact that they're going to miss many days of work? It's $50 a day. 2 jurors who were selected backed out because of reasons of missing work, and understandably so. This trial is going to go on for a lengthy period of time. How do you say to your employer that I'm on a jury? It's hard. And so, again, 2 jurors were allowed to step down from their duties. The employer is required to pay those sitting on a jury as a juror for the first 3 days they miss. After that, the $50 a day kicks in because they're no longer the employer required to pay any of the jurors. And to some, that's a super duper hardship. And therefore, these jurors were allowed to step down. Before playing the 911 call of the January 24, 2023 incident, Patrick Clancy was let out of the courtroom, so he would not have to be traumatized again by the 911 phone call. The judge ruled that the 911 call would not be dispatched, distributed, or recorded by the media, that it would stay within the purview of the court that day. The judge also had previously ruled that the autopsy report and the gruesome photos of the children would also not be given to the public for public viewing. The 911 call was played on the second day of the trial of Lindsay Clancy. Lindsay Clancy has brought forth a defense that indeed she did do the killings of her 3 children, but that it was based upon the insanity defense. The defense is proffering the following argument, that she was so deeply into being medicated that she did not possess a postpartum and psychosis, that she lacks criminal responsibility for her actions. Patrick Clancy testified that he was sent out to get dinner and he stopped at a pharmacy to get some prescriptions. While at CVS picking up the medicine, Patrick Clancy called his wife, Lindsay Clancy, to find out the generic version of the prescription would satisfy the need and the quality of the medication that needed to be taken by their child. Lindsay Clancy didn't receive the phone call, but called right back and said yes, the generic was fine, the medication, to her husband, Patrick Clancy. Clancy recounted that everything was normal and that when she didn't pick up the phone, he just assumed that perhaps she was giving the children a bath. Patrick Clancy testified that when he opened the door when he got home, which was about 10 to 12 minutes from the restaurant where he picked up the takeout food, there was eerie silence. Then he went upstairs and the bedroom door was locked. Then he panicked a little bit thinking, what's going on? That's when Patrick Clancy said he knew there was something wrong. He unlocked the door to an empty room. Patrick Clancy testified there was blood everywhere, and the bed was pushed away and the window was open. Patrick Clancy then told the jurors that he ran downstairs and then he went outside and he found his wife's body on the ground. She had cuts to both wrists and to her neck. The prosecution called the injuries to her wrists and neck superficial. Defense attorney Kevin Reddington rebuked this by saying, superficial? She's paralyzed for life from the waist down due to this fall, an attempted suicide. Patrick Clancy called 911 and stayed with his wife until the first responders arrived at his home. Patrick Clancy guested about 4 to 5 minutes before the first responders arrived at his home. Patrick Clancy went inside, went down to the basement, and found all 3 children strangled with exercise bands. The 2 oldest children, ages 5 and 3, died that night, and the baby died a couple nights later. After Patrick Clancy, there was 2 women that had phone calls with Lindsay on the day of the incident. One was a manager at the CVS about the medication she was looking to purchase. The other woman was a hostess at the restaurant where they sought to take out food for that evening's dinner. Both women, the manager at CVS and the hostess at the restaurant, described the phone call with Lindsay as being normal. Clancy seemed to understand what was being said on the phone and did not slur her words. The prosecution's contention is that Lindsay was in control at the time she committed the crimes. Prosecution claimed that Lindsay did this in a calculated and meticulous fashion. Lindsay's attorney, Kevin Reddington, said that she was over-medicated on the night of the incident, that she had postpartum and was over-medicated, therefore causing a psychosis, and that she heard a male voice, a hallucination that told her this was her chance to kill her children, and after killing her children, kill herself. Patrick Clancy testified that he spoke to his wife approximately 1 week earlier about these hallucinations, that if she didn't do it now, she would lose the opportunity, or words to that effect. Patrick Clancy said that Lindsay had not spoken about hallucinations and voices prior. Patrick further testified that his wife Lindsay previously had talked about suicidal and killing herself. She also said she had thoughts about harming the children, but she also said at the time she had no plan to do so. Patrick said that none of the medical professionals said that he should not leave her alone with the children. Patrick testified he had left the children alone with Lindsay on multiple occasions and nothing happened. Patrick Clancy has stated that he forgives Lindsay and that others should do the same. Now, I don't know about you, but the killing of 3 children and you're the dad, for him to stand up and said what he has said, that she's not a monster, but rather she was sick and that she loved everyone and everything in life. That is absolutely huge. And I just shake my head. What an incredible, strong human being Patrick Clancy must be to have said what he said about forgiveness. It just blows me away. And what's crazy is that Patrick could have thrown her under the bus big time. He's gotten divorced from Lindsay. Now he's remarried, living in New York. He's got no axe to grind, and yet he speaks just incredible. I'm lost for words to hear and read what he said, especially in a column he wrote in the New Yorker. Patrick Clancy, through the defense attorney, Kevin Reddington, painted a picture of a very loving mother who did everything and anything for the children, and who was a good mom, according to Patrick Clancy. Patrick Clancy said she was very dedicated and did everything for them, for children. Patrick Clancy talked about how Lindsay took him to music lessons, read them books, put their artwork all over the home. Kevin Reddington showed pictures of the various rooms with pictures all over the walls that Lindsay had put up that her children had created and made. Patrick Clancy said in the summer of 2022 they had a nice summer, and that in the fall, Lindsay started seeing medical professionals who were giving her medication, but it didn't seem to help much. Patrick said in December that Lindsay got worse, but then she went to a mental hospital. This hospital stay was in early January of 2023. On Monday, earlier in the week of the trial, the prosecution was trying to suggest that Lindsay was not taking her medication, as some of the bottles only had a few pills missing. Patrick Clancy stated that his wife had prescriptions. They were no longer in effect, and that she was taking different medication out of different bottles than the ones that were suggested by the prosecution as not being taken. Patrick Clancy said the medication bottles were either discontinued medication or that she was taking new or different prescribed medication. The prosecution tried to point out that Lindsay was a controlling mother and that only she could care for her children. And she left all types of notes for the babysitter. And Patrick Clancy countered that under examination by Kevin Reddington, the defense attorney, by stating that she was a concerned mom and that she left the notes and that the babysitter had only been babysitting for a short period of time.